welcome all of you to our particular session, which is being covered under our course Operations Management. This course has been coded as MMPO003. Now, under this particular course, when we started the operations management, we went on to learn the basics or the meaning of operations management. So there we saw operations management was the efficient and effective use of the inputs which are converted through a conversion process into the desired output in the form of either products or services. Now that basic things all were covered under our block 1. When we went into block 2, we went for the designing part, the designing of the operation system. Now we have come to the block 3 where the course covers the operations management or the managing of operations. In this particular session, we shall be looking at aggregate production planning. Now, before starting anything, when we are talking of planning, every organization has definite plans. The plans can be having an impact or may be encompassing a time period of starting from days, months to years or number of years. Usually we say when the plans are made for a long period of time, usually greater than 1 year period, then those are strategic plans. We can have plans like the capacity setup, layout setup, location setup, etc. Now these decision areas will be covering the plans of the organization for a very long period of time. Now, these plans usually set up the environment for any organization to produce its outputs in the form of products or services. Now, the environment has been provided by strategic plans. Now comes how we shall plan for the actual production. Now, usually, no organization plans for a production which ranges for a large period of time, maybe years or a number of years. Usually they confine their plans for production for a few months or few weeks to a maximum extent of 1 year period. Here we try to take into account that for the production that has been planned for this intermediate period or the medium time period, which as we just now said will be from maybe few weeks to a maximum up to 1 year. What are the items required so as to carry out the plans? The items broadly we can say are the materials, the labor, and apart from that, any kind of utilities. So, these all input items are aggregated or combined together to help the organization to carry out its production plan. So, in today's session, we shall be looking at the aggregate production plans, the basics of aggregate production plans, the meaning of that, the approaches to that, the benefits of that, and not only that, how aggregate production plan also runs. We shall see through simple examples in this particular session itself. Let us get an introduction to the subject, what we mean by aggregate production planning, APP. As we're discussing right now, just few moments back, we said strategic decisions like the layout, the location, the facilities, etc., which creates the environment for an organization to work. To work means to generate or produce the finished items in terms of either products or services. Now, these strategic decisions, when they lay out the environment, this helps the organization to carry out its actual production plans, which typically are not of a very large period of time. These are typically starts from a few days or few weeks to a maximum extent of 1 year. And we call these as intermediate decisions. Now, these intermediate decisions are important for smooth running of the organization or implementation of the organization's production plan. Uh, when we say smooth running, we mean the availability of raw material, the availability of the workers, availability of technology, which are blended together or combined together so as to carry out the production plan. So we say aggregate production planning is intermediate or planning of company's production, inventory and staffing level. It usually ranges from 3 to 12 months. As we said, it is an intermediate time period horizon. It serves as a conduit for strategic decisions, which provides direction to day-to-day operations. Now, the organization takes strategic decisions. That means what is the product line, what is the market they have to cater to, where they will set up the factory. All these things are planned by the organization for a long period of time. So, strategic decisions. Now these plans have to be broken down so as suppose the production can be done through plans for very short time period, maybe few months to maximum 1 year. Now while preparing the production plan, we try to avoid strategic decisions as the customer tastes, customer preferences are changing day by day. So in order that we cope up with the changing requirement of the customers in the marketplace, we try to have a production plan of intermediate time period horizon, so that if any kind of changes are observed in the preferences of the customer, then it can be incorporated shortly. It is a technique for creating a comprehensive manufacturing plan to guarantee continuous production. That means in the intermediate horizon, we shall not face any kind of stoppages in the production line or the production process due to unavailability of any inputs. So, aggregate production plan guarantees continuous production to go on, thereby providing certain advantages. Now, importance and approaches of aggregate production plans. What is the importance? Now we can say this assists in achieving equilibrium among companies' operational goals, financial objectives, and general goals. The company's operational goals may be, suppose, maximum utilization of the machineries, but financial objectives should be how to lower the cost so as to maximize the profit. General goals can include various kind of CSR activities. Now, APP or the aggregate production planning helps to achieve a balance between all these three goals or objectives. It acts as an interface for capacity and demand planning. It is not always that we can predict the actual demand that is going to happen in the future. Even though we go by the predicted demand or estimated demand by using various mathematical as well as scientific techniques, sometimes we may find that the capacity is not matching this demand. So, how much capacity to be utilized so as to meet the demand for the intermediate period can be found out. Now, the capacity and demand planning, they can be balanced by few things we have taken here. You can add to this: layoffs or hiring, overtimes, subcontracting. Sometimes what happens, For the next 3 months, suppose the expected demand is going to be higher than the capacity the company has. So what we can do here? We can hire more number of workers into the company and utilize their efforts so that the demand can be fulfilled by capacity. Take another thing. Suppose our demand for the products of the company is lower than whatever capacity the company has set up. So there you might not be using the already present number of workers to carry out the task. So you may ask them to leave the company or go away from the company. That is layoffs. Many a times nowadays we are finding corporates, Indian or multinational companies, they are using this kind of technique called as layoffs or hiring. For what reason? Now, for having an equilibrium between capacity and demand. The second way of balancing is by use of overtime. What happens? The workers of the organization may be asked to, we can say, work more. The workers may be asked to work more, and for that they will be paid at a higher rate as compared to their regular time work payment. Suppose we have higher demand but our capacity is not matching. In that case, we may pay overtime to the customers and they will start having the items, the finished products through this overtime work by the workers. Now, usually the overtime cost of working is higher than the regular time cost of working. Another way or approaches of aggregate production planning is subcontracting. Many of us might have seen the highway projects that are going all around the country. For example, think of a state, any state that you belong to, wherever the national highways are being uh, taken care of, that means work is done by the, we can say, the person who has got the tender to do the work. But the company's owner finds that I cannot produce that much. I cannot supply that much. What is the way out? The company may ask some other company in the existing or same production line to produce items for them. And for that, the companies which produce the things will be taking some shares out of the product. So, the balancing of capacity and demand is done by these three mainly. Other many ways are there we can go through. What are the objectives of aggregate production planning. All of us know now that aggregate production planning is a plan developed by the organization for the production lines in an intermediate time horizon. Now, if our pet comes out of that, what we can say, the entrapment, and revive the person who has created this all sort of technology, etc., then we may come to a conclusion that yes, the company can no longer take advantage of the workers. While doing the APP or the aggregate production planning, we always cross check or make a balance between the demand and supply of each and every item. That will help us to know at what time what component will be used by the organization. So the store manager or the purchase manager should be ready with the items as and when needed, but not by holding huge amount of inventory, because inventory built up includes cost, or you have to invest in inventory. So instead of keeping very high level of inventory, we try to minimize the inventory levels. That is called as the minimization of inventory investment. The aggregate production planning tries to minimize the inventory investment. Maximize production rate and fluctuation. When you are producing a certain item in your industry or the industry where you are working, uh, for the intermediate period, we may try to produce not only what is required, but also satisfy some of the future demands. So, aggregate production planning maximizes production rate and fluctuation. Thirdly, we say APP minimizes workforce demand. It may so happen that people, whenever there is certain occasion in the house, in their house, they might be looking at other helping hands. So here we have to minimize the workforce demand. And lastly, but not the least, maximize facility and production equipment utilization. Maximize facility and production equipment. One may say that we will go on and go on, so we shall pile up, or we will have large number of facilities. But here we have to be careful. We have to take the example of the aggregate production plants. Now, Looking at the process and variables of aggregate production planning, we segregate that into two parts: inputs for aggregate production planning, outputs of the aggregate production plans. Uh, First input is strategic objectives and policies. An objective which is being finished and it will have an impact for a long period of time, which we will be calling as strategic objective. That is the basic input to the aggregate production plan. We have to take into account the capacity constraints. It so happens that your demand level is suppose 100 and your production rate per month is only 70. So per month 700 units to be produced. However, we have suppose capacity of 500 units. So thereby we will have a situation of being stock out. Another input is the demand forecast, which are basically ranging from 3 months to maximum extent of 1 year. And last input is the financial constraints. It is not always that we say that we don't have any kind of financial burden or financial constraint. If things are changing, then better it is for us. If things are not changing, then we may suffer from financial constraints. Now, using these inputs, what does aggregate production plan or planning does? It generates outputs. What are the outputs? One is workforce size. The number of workers in the organization may be changing from time to time period. So through aggregate production plan, we can have the output of workforce. It will help us. Second is the production rate. At what pace we shall produce our products. If we produce higher volumes, but still we are falling behind in supplying the items, that means we have to increase our production rate so as to manage with the production levels. And lastly, inventory levels. All of us know that organizations try to maintain inventory for various purposes. Now, if I am not mistaken, the person sitting here, that means in the office of the procurement or the inventory segment of the company, he has or she has to track down how much inventory are there of each item, how much will be required for the forthcoming month, or maybe say 2 months, maybe 3 months, maximum up to 1 year. We know that higher the investment in the higher the inventory, the investment item also becomes high, or the inventory cost becomes high. So, how much to order, what time to order, that means the inventory management part will help us out to maintain the inventory levels of aggregate production plants. Now, when we are talking of strategies in aggregate planning, our basic focus is how to match the productions with the required demand in an intermediate horizon. Intermediate horizon means few months to maximum 1 year. Now here different kind of strategies come into the picture. We can have basic strategies. Apart from that, if we adopt both basic as well as the other strategies, we may have a hybrid strategy. Now, first is uh, aggregate production planning. The first strategy we shall look at is the basic strategy is chase strategy. So what I mean by that chase strategy. For example, now suppose our demand level for next 4 periods is like this. This is our demand. Demand forecasting. Now, this is according to the plan. This is our suppose beginning of the planning period, and this is ending of the planning period. Here we end, here we start. What I will do? Look at the name. Chase. What shall we chase? Now chase the demand. What will chase? Now the actual production will try to chase the demand. So here we shall take along with this so actual production will chase the demand. From that the name comes the chase strategy. Now let us see through the example that we have how this strategy works. What is the cost involved with this particular strategy? Right. Uh, a typical example I have taken where we will be looking at the chase strategy. Some of the information that we have incorporated at there are 10 workers at the beginning of the period. A worker can produce 25 units per month. So 10 workers can produce 25 into 10, that is equal to 250 units per month. Cost of hiring is rupees 2000 per worker and the layoff cost is rupees 5000 per worker. That means if we add a workforce, we have to incur a cost of rupees 2000 each. If we want to take out one of the workers due to lower amount of production required according to the demand, then we have to face or incur a cost of rupees 5000 per worker. Now 4 months data is given, month 1, 2, 3, 4, and the forecasted demand is given as 300, 200, 100 and 400. Now here we find the demand is different for different periods. So what we can do if we are chasing the demand? Chasing the demand means producing according to the forecasted demand. Let us see how much are the each month's requirement of workers. For example, first month 300 units are required. One worker can produce 25 units per month. So, how many workers are needed for the first month? 300 units divided by 25. That is equal to 12 workers. So this is calculated as demand divided by 25. That means units produced by a worker per month. So using this, I can calculate the workers required for each of the month. Let us see. Second month, we shall be requiring 200 divided by 25 that is equal to 8 workers. Third month, 100 units are required, divided by 25 into 4 workers are required. And the last month, when 400 units are required, 400 divided by 25, that is equal to 16. So these are the workers required in each month. Now, at the beginning of the period, 10 workers are there at the beginning of the planning period. So, here I can use two columns for hiring and this is layoff. I begin the period, first period with 10 workers. But during the month, how many workers I need? We said 12. 10 workers were present at the start of the planning period's first time period or first month. Now you are requiring for that particular month 12 workers. So what we shall do? Now we shall have 2 workers hired. So no layoff in the first month. So now at the end of the first month, how many workers are there in total? Now we can say 12. 10 workers at the beginning and add 2, so it becomes 12. So here it is 12. Now come to the second month. How many workers are needed? We say 8 workers are needed. At the beginning 12 were there, 8 are required. So we have to send off 4 workers. That means lay off 4 workers. No hiring in the second month. At the beginning of the third month, we have 8 workers. How many workers are needed? 4. So again we have to lay off another 4 workers. Now come to the fourth month. At the beginning of fourth month, 4 workers are there. 4 workers are there, but you require 16. During the month, 16 workers are needed. So you have to add 12 workers. That means you have to hire 12 workers. No firing. Now, what is the cost of hiring or laying off? Hiring is 2000. Hiring cost is 2000. Laying off is 5000. Look at the first month. 2 have been hired, so 2 into 2000, it is 4000 to spend for hiring. Then in the second month, you have to lay off 4 workers, each costing you 5000 rupees, so it comes to 20,000. Third month similarly, 4 workers have to be laid off, each costing 5,000 rupees. So 4 into 5,000 is 20,000. Last month, you are hiring 12 workers. Each one is costing you to hire is 2,000 rupees. So overall is 24,000. So these are the hiring or firing cost of each month. Apart from that, you pay a salary of rupees 10,000 per month to each worker. So salary, first month, how many workers are there? Not 12. Salary at the rate of 10,000. 12 workers you are having. So total is 1,20,000. Come to the second month. How many workers we are having? 8 workers. So 8, this one is 4, and this one is 16. What are the salaries they are taking? In the second month we are paying 80,000. Third month 40,000, and this one is 1,60,000. Now, what is the total cost? For the first month, we combine the cost of hiring and laying off along with the salary, and we get 1,24,000. Coming to the second month, similarly, the cost is 1 lakh. Third month, it is 60,000. And for the fourth month, it is 184,000. Now, what is the overall cost of this particular plan? We can say the total or summation of all total cost, that is equal to 124,000 plus 1 lakh plus 60,000 plus 184,000. We take the total of all total cost, and that gives me a final figure of 4,68,000. So, if I am using a policy of chase strategy, that means hiring or laying off of workers according to the forecasted demand of each period, then my overall cost for the planning horizon of 4 months is 4,68,000. Now let us look at this particular scenario under another strategy, that is label production. What I mean by label production or label strategy, the production rate is constant in each month. That means the number of workers will not change. Here we can say production constant. Number of laborers is, there are 10 workers at the beginning. That is also constant. A worker can produce 25 units per month as it was previous. Each worker takes a salary of 10,000 rupees per month. That is also there in the previous. But here, instead of hiring and firing, we are having something called as inventory and backlog cost. What is inventory? Suppose for a particular month, suppose first month, demand is 300. You suppose produce 500 units. So after meeting the demand of 300 units, 200 units will be left back with us, which has to be stored for future period of time. And for storing each unit, it will cost the organization rupees 200 per month. What is backlog? Suppose think of a particular month, first month, 300. And our production for each month is 200 units. So in the first month, your demand or the customer requirement are 300 units, out of which only 200 can be satisfied. Remaining 100 customers will not get the item due to lack of the finished goods. That means you are having a backlog of 100 units, which may be satisfied from the future production levels. Now, here, what is the total demand we have? Total demand is 300 plus 200 plus 100 plus 400. Total is 1000 per month. That is the production rate per month. Now, in order to produce this 250 units, how many workers we require? Two 50 units are required. Each worker can produce 25 units. So every month, or you shall maintain a constant workforce of 10 workers so as to produce at a constant level, that is level strategy, so as to meet the overall demand of 1000 units for the 4 months. So here have decided we shall produce a label number of units. Production is constant. Now let us look at whether we are having inventory or backlog. Look at the first month. Demand is 300 units, but you are producing only 250 units. That means apart from satisfying 250 units demanded, 50 units are still unsatisfied demand, which is nothing but backlog. Come to the second month. You are having a demand of 200 units, but you are producing 250 units. One may say that yes, here we are producing an extra units of 50 units, which is inventory. Now this inventory will go to satisfy the backlog of the previous month. So the inventory which we are thinking of 50 units will not be there. Come to the third month. You have produced 100, 250 units, but the demand is only 100 units. So 150 units will still be with us because already you have met the backlog by using the second month's production. Now come to the fourth month. You are producing 250 units, but 400 units are demanded. So you are suffering a backlog or unsatisfied demand of 150 units. Now, this backlog which is going to be created can be satisfied from the inventory of the third month. So here we shall not be having any kind of inventory or backlog. Now here let us see what is the cost involved. I think inventory cost is 200 rupees, backlog is rupees 100. In the first month we have a backlog of 50, so 50 into 100, 5,000. Here nothing. Here you are having a inventory of 150 units into cost is 200 each, 30,000. And here nothing. Now apart from this, the people will take salary. So 10 workers are there, each will be taking 10,000. So every month you will be paying 1 lakh rupees as salary. What is the total cost for each month? One lakh 5,000 for the first month. This is 1 lakh. This is 1,30,000. This is 1 lakh. Now, what is the overall cost? Of label strategy, summation of all the total cost. You will add up all the total cost. So that gives me a figure of rupees 4,35,000. Now in the previous case, it was the total overall cost was 4,68,000. The same case, when you are using label strategy, you are having a lower total cost of 4,35,000. So here as manager, we shall try to adapt the label strategy for this 4 months period. That means we shall maintain a constant workforce of 10 workers and we shall try to go by inventory or backlogs. And the overall plan will give us the minimum lower cost. Now, with this, we have seen strategies can be adopted for a intermediate period, which may be ranging from few weeks to maximum up to 1 year. So out of the possible options for a particular scenario, whichever strategy gives you the lower total cost will be adopted by the manager so that the overall cost is minimized. So the aggregate production planning helps in order to choose the best strategy, or in other words, the strategy that will minimize the overall cost for the production plan. With this, we end our session today. Thank you.